If you are not aware, or maybe you are, but the Wii U and 3DS eShops are shutting down this month, March 27th, 2023, which is sad to see it go, basically an end of an era, and an end to the DS console line. I have a lot of fond memories with the 3DS. Here's the new 3DS that I recently got. I got the Galaxy 3DS because it looks cool, and now this is my main go-to 3DS. And here's the 3DS from my childhood. I got the aqua blue colored one because blue is my favorite color. I remember getting pink eye back in grade 6 or 7. Can't remember. My parents didn't know what was wrong with my eye, and it was looking pretty bad, so my dad took me to go see an eye doctor, and it turned out I had pink eye, which is contagious and I had to take a week off from school. After the doctors, my dad bought me a 3DS, and all I was doing on my week off was playing New Super Mario Bros. 2. I still have the original cartridge from my childhood, but ever since we moved I lost the case for it. This was also around the time I was heavily into Adventure Time, and I got the 3DS game Hey Ice King, Why'd You Steal Our Garbage. It came with the Enchiridion case and I still have it to this day. The 3DS is backwards compatible with the DS, which means I could play the Pokemon games I grew up on like the Pokemon Gen 2 remakes and Pokemon Platinum. Pokemon X and Y, aka the last good Pokemon games released on the 3DS as well. It was the first time the mainline series were in 3D. Added different skin tones, a bunch of different hairstyles, clothes and outfits for your characters to wear, and it's the only Pokemon game with an actual good gimmick. Mega Evolutions. Game Freak took some risks and it paid off. I remember finding a Pikachu in the forest and I was amazed that Pikachu actually said its name and not just its usual cry sound. The Pokemon X and Y anime was great as well, and it actually got me invested in the anime again. A great way to go out seeing what Pokemon would later become after Gen 6. I got to experience Sonic Rush for the first time back in 2021, an experience I will never forget. Blaze not only being the best female Sonic character, she's also in my top 3 Sonic characters of all time. With Hideki Naganuma being the composer, he made the Sonic Rush soundtrack sound unique compared to the other Sonic soundtracks. With Hideki Naganuma's use of using a lot of samples in his tracks, it gives it a distinctive sound, which is a reason why I was disappointed when he didn't come back for Sonic Rush Adventure, the sequel to Sonic Rush. The Wii U, on the other hand, I don't really have any fond memories with it because I just got it recently. It's also due to the fact that it's Nintendo's worst selling home console of all time. The marketing was bad, tons of people, including me, thought it was peripheral like the Wii balance board and not a new console entirely. And when I finally found out it was a new console, I already went with the smarter option and picked up a PS4. The Wii U ads were awful. There's tons of compilations out there on YouTube on how bad they are. I don't know what they were thinking with those ads because it doesn't help them with the image that they gained over the 90s that Nintendo is only interested in making baby games made for toddlers. The Wii U era was not a good time for Nintendo. Everyone thinking Nintendo was bankrupt and was going to pull a Sega and be a third-party developer for PlayStation and Xbox. Luckily they didn't, and now they're doing better than ever with their smash hit new console, the Nintendo Switch. The Switch being the Wii U if it was actually good. The Switch borrows a lot of things from the Wii U, like you could play it in handheld mode and on the TV, but the biggest difference is you can take the Switch on the go while in handheld mode, unlike the Wii U where you can't. Even though the Wii U was a financial failure, I still use it time to time. I initially wanted to get my hands on the Wii U so I could play some exclusive Sonic games in Smash. Sega signed a deal with Nintendo to make the next 3 Sonic games exclusive to the Wii U. Those games being Sonic Lost World, which I've still yet to play, Sonic and Mario at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games. If you played one of the Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games, you pretty much played them all. And this one isn't as cool as the Vancouver 2010 Olympic Winter Games because this one doesn't take place in Canada. Sonic Boom! Rise of Lyric was the last exclusive Sonic game and is also the worst selling Sonic game of all time, which almost killed the franchise for a second time. Smash, on the other hand, is always a good time on any console, so you know your boy had to get it to see how different it is compared to Ultimate. And the game is surprisingly really floaty and slow compared to Ultimate's smooth, fast, more grounded gameplay. Smash 4 is where Cloud made his debut in Smash, which is a win in my book. The game I use my Wii U for the most, however, is funnily enough, Fire Emblem Blazing Blade. I wanted to get into Fire Emblem for a while now, with it being a tactical RPG and all. I've never played a tactical RPG before, and I wanted to dip my toes into this subgenre. The trailers Nintendo was releasing for 3 Houses back in the day, with every choice and decision mattering in the game, and that there's permadeath so if you lose a unit they're gone for good really intrigued me. Not only that, but it looked like Fire Emblem had a calendar system similar to Persona 5, and I was on my Persona High at the time. And Sylphus shared the same voice actor Morgana has for Persona 5, and they're basically the same character, so it was like the next best thing. It also helps that Sakurai is a massive fan of the series, and adds tons of Fire Emblem characters into Smash. So I picked up Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and I didn't really understand the combat and stopped playing it after a while. A year later I picked up Fire Emblem Awakening at a video game shop. This was around the time when Engage was coming out, and I heard from many people that it was a great place to start, so instead of continuing with Fire Emblem Awakening, I might as well just play the new one. I bought it on Amazon, I played it and got up to where the spoilers, Dragon Mom dies, and stopped playing because I couldn't take it seriously. Got the mom dying and you just got Mar standing there like it feels bad, man. Got me bursting out laughing. It also doesn't help that Engage is an anniversary game, and I didn't know half of these characters except for the ones in Smash. And from what I've gathered from the community, the 3DS to Switch era of Fire Emblem games is the anime weebu era, aka what the community likes to call waifu Emblem, which made me want to avoid the series like the plague. If it's anything like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then I'm good. Doesn't help that I'm really burnt out of anime at the moment. But I've also heard that the classic games from NES to Wii are good. So one day I'm on the Virtual Console looking for some games to buy before the eShop closes, and I see that they got some Fire Emblem Game Boy Advance games. So I was like, might as well, and picked up Fire Emblem and Fire Emblem Sacred Stones for the Wii U. And I've been really enjoying Fire Emblem. The tutorials are pretty good and easy to understand. Lynn's story is pretty much a glorified tutorial, but I'm not complaining. It was the first Fire Emblem game to release outside of Japan, and the game is pretty complex as expected to be, since it's a strategy RPG. And the tutorials can be pretty entertaining, like watching Sane make a fool out of himself after he was hitting on Lynn trying to impress her, completely embarrassing himself by using wrong weapons and needing to get healed was pretty funny. I was like, alright my guy, you getting benched after this. Or even Florina being scared of Will at the beginning of him joining, because archers are really powerful against Pegasus Knights and do twice the amount of damage. There's lots to learn about the gameplay, like how archers and mages can attack from a distance, Pegasus Knights can fly around huge chunks of the map but are immensely weak to archers, the terrain, like if you're in the woods, enemies will be more likely to miss you, and the weapons triangle, where swords are strong against axes, axes are strong against lances, and lances are strong against swords. Which is kind of crazy they don't really explain this stuff earlier on in later entries, or maybe they did and I was being stupid and not paying attention, but once you get a feel for the game, it all starts coming together. One day I was in the shower getting ready for work thinking to myself, damn, wouldn't it be cool if I could pick up Lynn with Florina and fly her to a different section of the map and make her fight enemies on one side, while my other units fight enemies on the other side? And then I was like, oh my god. Selecting rescue lets you pick up units, so I had to try this when I got back home. And when I tried it out, it worked and I felt like a damn genius. Alright, so this is the part of the video where I recommend some games for the Wii U and 3DS before the eShop shuts down. My first recommendation is a no-brainer. All the mainline Pokémon games released on the 3DS. Get them before the prices get ridiculously high. Due to Pokémon being the highest grossing franchise of all time, the prices are gonna get ridiculous to the point that they will be selling cartridges, no case or manuals or anything, just the cartridge for over $300, which is insane. Also make sure to get the Gen 1 Pokémon games Red, Blue, and Yellow, as well as the Gen 2 Pokémon games Gold, Silver, and Crystal released on the Virtual Console. Next game I would like to recommend would be Smash for Wii U and 3DS. Smash Bros is literally the best thing Nintendo has ever put out. It's a massive crossover fighting game with iconic video game characters like Mario, Sonic, Pikachu, Pac-Man, and Cloud, just to name a few, battling it out on iconic video game stages. Although the controls aren't as good as Smash Bros Ultimate, and with the Switch being a hybrid handheld console and home console, making these games obsolete, it's still good just to have these games in your collection to see how far Smash Bros has come from Smash 64 to Ultimate, a celebration of Nintendo history. Smash 4 came with DLC. If you have both the 3DS and Wii U, I suggest you get the all-in-one bundle instead of buying both separately. Once the eShop is gone, so is the DLC, so you might want to hurry. Next up is the Fire Emblem series. Fire Emblem wasn't performing too well sales-wise, and Nintendo was like, alright you guys, this is the last one. After this we finna pull the plug. How are you gonna release games on our best-selling consoles and produce poor sales? So Intelligent Systems went to work and wanted to go out on a bang, and released Fire Emblem Awakening, which we all know the story. Awakening was a smash hit and saved the series from cancellation. This is the game that has the most Fire Emblem representation in Smash, so I suggest you guys check this game out first. It's beginner friendly from what I've heard, and if you like it then get Fates and Echoes as well. And if you're a mega fan of the series, get Fire Emblem Warriors, a hack and slash spin-off game. These games all have DLC. Most importantly, Fates has DLC worth $28 that connects the two stories into one, and you get the true story of the game, I think. Think of it as Pokemon Emerald or Platinum. You better get this DLC because the only way to get it after the eShop closes is the Fire Emblem Fates Special Editions, which include the DLC. But they're going up to $1,000 right now and will only go up in price as time goes on, so it's better to save your money and buy the DLC instead of the special editions. For the Wii U sides of things, there's Fire Emblem and Fire Emblem Sacred Stones. I talked about Fire Emblem for a long time earlier, so go buy it. It's the easiest way to get into the series. Next up is the Persona Q games. Persona Q is a crossover spin-off game between Persona 3 and Persona 4, where C's and the investigation team up to get treasures to restore Zen and Rei's memories so they can get back to their dimension. The gameplay is like Etrian Odyssey mixed with Persona. Persona Q is the second crossover spin-off game with Persona 3, Persona 4, and the newly added Persona 5 cast of characters. You play as the Phantom Thieves this time around in a cinema and meet up with CZ investigation team, which kinda sucks, because before you could pick the team of your choosing and go through their story, and with Persona 4 being my personal favorite game in the series, and one of my favorite games of all time, it's kind of a letdown. Both of these games have great music, and the theme for my 3DS is the Persona Q2 Cinema Tale theme. Speaking of Persona, some of you might not be aware, but Persona is actually a spin-off of the Megami Tensei franchise. So the Persona Q games are technically a spin-off of a spin-off game. But enough about Persona, let's talk about Megami Tensei. Shin Megami Tensei got a new entry in the franchise, Shin Megami Tensei 4, exclusively for the 3DS. You might want to check it out if you're a fan of Persona, and you want to see how different SMT is compared to it. The game has DLC, so you might want to buy it before you lose the chance. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse also released on the 3DS as well, but everyone calls it bad, so that's why I didn't recommend it. Which reminds me of another collaborative crossover game by Intelligent Systems and Atlas, that some people consider good and others consider bad. The Fire Emblem Shin Megami Tensei crossover game, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. A Fire Emblem and Persona crossover game would be so cool, but since this game is a mixed bag, I don't think they will ever try this idea ever again. Next game I'm going to recommend is Icarus Uprising. This is the game that Smash Bros. Made. The Icarus franchise got rebooted, and from what I've heard, it's pretty good. I mean, it's gotta be good if Sakurai made it, and since Sakurai worked on the game, it got a lot of representation in Smash. You should try it out and get your hands on the big box one before it goes up in price. Next up is the Legend of Zelda games. Ocarina of Time is one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, and the highest graded game on Metacritic. The game got remastered on the 3DS with better graphics. Even though I never played a Zelda game in my life, you definitely want to pick this game up, since it's the starting point of the wacky Zelda timeline, going off from what my friend was telling me. Next up is Minecraft, one of the best-selling games of all time. I don't really need to explain what Minecraft is at this point, because it's just that popular and iconic. Pick it up, it's literally a masterpiece on every console. Earthbound, also known as the Mother series in Japan, is a cult classic JRPG that influenced the likes of Undertale, Omori, Lisa, South Park The Stick of Truth, and Yik, just to name a few. Similar to Emblem, it gives RPGs that take inspiration from Earthbound a bad rep, and are labeled as the quirky Earthbound-inspired RPG because it's just that influential. However, Earthbound sold poorly in the West due to RPGs generally not selling well in the West during the 90s, and the fart-based ads saying this game stinks made people actually believe the game was trash. Most of y'all know Ness from Super Smash Bros. And due to its popularity in Smash, and that Earthbound is immensely influential, which in turn makes the game high in demand. But since Earthbound sold poorly, it made the game become rare since it was less in demand compared to the likes of Mario, Sonic, or Zelda at the time. And now we're in a horrible situation where the game is selling for over $1,000, and Nintendo is just over here dangling the series over our heads, taking an absurdly long time to release the damn thing on their horrible online Game Pass subscription service. Even though Earthbound is on the Switch SNES Online right now, a couple of years from now when the eShop and online services shut down for the Switch, will all the SNES games be gone as well? Better to just get Earthbound on 3DS and Wii U, and Earthbound Beginnings on Wii U, instead of dealing with Nintendo and scalpers.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Final Fantasy fans were longing for that classic turn-based combat of the old-school Final Fantasy games for a while now. The last Final Fantasy game to have turn-based combat was Final Fantasy X, and that was like in 2001. After constant begging from fans, Square Enix's actual response was to play this new JRPG, Bravely Default, instead, if you want that old-school Final Fantasy feel. But we want Final Fantasy to be turn-based! Too bad, Final Fantasy is action-based from now on, so if you don't like the current direction Final Fantasy is going in, then play Bravely Default. My next recommendation is Radiant Historia. Radiant Historia is a grid-based and turn-based JRPG, and similar to Chrono Trigger, it has time travel gimmicks. This can also be a good alternative if you don't want to support the character designer for Chrono Trigger, Akira Toriyama, who thinks racism is totally funny and wants to be the type of old man who peeps on his granddaughter. Hold on, am I reading this right? Some people can separate the art from the artist, and some people can't. I have a lot of friends who can't separate them, so here's an alternative which I've heard is just as good as Chrono Trigger. Also, X&Ski sampled the song I'm playing in the background right now.
But your mask with the pack, no trap laws.
Menace and Venice, turn your bitch up into a lost cause.
Beauty and the Beast with a clip, be cautious, caution. Murder the pussy, them city floss.
Next recommendation is some Mario games. But do I even have to recommend Mario games? Like, if you're buying a Nintendo console, you're most likely gonna buy a Mario game. Super Mario 3D World is a pretty great game. It's pretty much a 2D 3D Mario game. As someone who prefers classic Mario over modern Mario, this game is a great in-between, and I just love the jazzy OST. There's Super Mario 3D Land that takes advantage of the 3D to make pretty good levels, and the new Super Mario Bros. Series on Wii U and 3DS. My last recommendation is the Sonic games released exclusively on Wii U and 3DS. You know I can't forget about the GOAT. You got your mainline Sonic games, Sonic Lost World, the Olympic games, the Boom spin-off games, and even Sonic Generations for the 3DS. It sucks to see the eShop go. Nintendo could keep the eShop up if they wanted to. Since Nintendo is one of Japan's richest companies, they also make more money than their competitor Sony. Sony was going to shut down the PS3 and Vita stores, but after listening to feedback from fans not being happy about the decision to shut the stores down, Sony actually listened and decided to keep it back up. But unlike Sony, Nintendo fans are complacent about Nintendo's decision, which sucks. It just gives Nintendo the green light to keep taking advantage of their fans. They charge full price for Wii U ports, and since Nintendo loves re-releasing their games at a snail's pace, it only just helps the scalpers because the games are high in demand and rare. And the scalpers get to price the games however they want. Well, rest in peace Wii U and 3DS eShops, you will be missed. If you did like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and see ya! Hey guys, it's Snowy here, and this video was supposed to come out way earlier. I'm talking at most, the latest it should have been would be mid-April. But the project got corrupted and I lost days of work, which really demotivated me, because I'd have to redo huge chunks of editing all over again. It's a shame because I really wanted to post more content this year, but oh well, next year will be my year. Stay tuned for more content and thanks again for watching.